This here is an interesting area. The only problem I see with this area is that it's part of the largest roadless area of Pennsylvania. So there's no easy way to get from here to there.
Think of a lot of places in PA, this part checks the boxes. With the historical sightings, I don't want to get too deep into the guy's background, but a very credible witness who worked for the Fish and Game Department. He was up in his tree stand and he locked his eyes on this thing that came out into the opening of the forest as he had his sights on the deer, and he couldn't explain what it was. It scared the crap out of him.
I know this area is it's not the most hospitable to people, so the fact that something could hide in here is really a big factor and the reason why we choose to come out here to investigate.
Well, I have been investigating Bigfoot phenomena in Pennsylvania for over, almost 30 years now. I started when I was 9 years old after I read Sasquatch, the Apes Among Us on a book on a family trip. And when I realized it wasn't just an exclusive Pacific Northwest entity, it was a global phenomena, but it was also happening in my own backyard in Pennsylvania. Chapter 13, Eastern Action, opened my eyes to that. And so I, as a younger teen, was just going out, reading reports, investigating sightings that have already happened, trying to get new reports, but it was a different time. People weren't really open to talking about Bigfoot in a public forum back then.
I've always had an interest in the Bigfoot topic ever since I was a little kid. I remember when my mom took me to the Navy base movie theater and we saw The Legend of Boggy Creek, and that was it. So when I was in school, I tried to get Bigfoot books. I remember the one book I had, I don't remember the name, but it was a picture of Renee DeHindren with the big wooden Sasquatch statue, and I said, man, that's the coolest thing. I'd love to be there one day.
So I joined up with Eric Altman in the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society, and once I joined that group, it opened me up to being able to receive reports, and then I was boots on the ground investigating everywhere in Pennsylvania I could get to. Met James Baker, my research partner for over 20 years, and we've been all over the state.
Throughout the years, I've always kind of kept up with the research, and back in the early 2000s, in the late 90s, I was, at the infancy of the internet, I was on the BFRO page, the Pennsylvania Bigfoot page, and reading up about all the reports. And I was surprised to find the amount of reports that happened here in Pennsylvania. And from that, I started, kind of spending more time out in the woods and being more observant of it. And throughout the years, I went to a PBS conference, and that's where I ran into Sean Forker, and that was pretty much the start of it, the new adventure here.
Predominantly a lot of the reports come out of the southwest PA area, the Pittsburgh, not Pittsburgh the city, but around, the Chestnut Ridge, right? We hear Chestnut Ridge ad nauseum, but there's also Clearfield County out west from here that have had a lot of encounters. I had my own encounter in Clearfield County, hundreds of reports in Clearfield County in itself. So there are other areas of Pennsylvania that are more active. The problem why we don't get so many reports is because up until recently, there hadn't been an active group like the PA Bigfoot Society that was in the Southwest gathering all these reports and investigating frequently.
There's been places that we've investigated in Northeast Pennsylvania, North Central Pennsylvania. We've been to the spot where he had his encounter in Clearfield. And there's been a lot of times that if Sean can't go out there, I would go out on my own and take a recorder with me, or take a video camera and see what we can find.
So now that the subject of Bigfoot has gotten a little bit more popular, I think people are a little bit more willing to talk about it on a serious level if they have the right person to talk to. And that's where Matt and I come in, because Matt and I really aren't proponents of the woo. We're pretty flesh and blood, very science-based, down to earth. Like, this is a practical approach. This is a flesh and blood animal. That's what we believe. That's how we treat it. And I think that makes people more comfortable. So they are willing to talk to us, especially people that may be out here because they have been generational hunters or they are fishermen. They can kind of relate to that a little bit more than something that may be a telepathic, speaking, portal jumping Sasquatch, right? Out here in this magnificent PA wilderness, the Sproul State Forest, investigating historical Bigfoot activity in this area, trying to see if there's still active Bigfoot activity here today. And it's been a mixed bag, so we're hoping to get a lot of evidence out of this area, get a lot more sighting reports. This is a very conservative part of PA. Generations of hunters, very remote, not easy to access. With everyday vehicles. It's very quiet. This time of year, today's actually the opening day of fishing, so there's probably more traffic than usual, but it's not very active here. You can sit out here at nights and there's no vehicles that come passing through. It's very quiet. And again, like I said, generations of hunters that really aren't open to talking about strange things they may have encountered. We're out here to build trust and engagement and see if we can get some of those folks to open up to us.
So the reason why we're here at this particular spot, this road came up on the BFRO reports for 2 different sightings. There's a third sighting that was actually just behind us on another road, which is just about 2 miles away. So historically, there's always been activity here. We have had other investigations where people have come with us with encounters. The most recent was in June of 2023, where a fisherman who was camping by himself had heard vocalizations and wood knocks and felt like he was chased out of the area. And that happened pretty much as far as the crow flies, right behind my head here. So this here is an interesting area. The only problem I see with this area is that it's part of the largest roadless area of Pennsylvania. So there's no easy way to get from here to there. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to spend as much time as we can in this area to see if we do have any encounters ourselves, or if we run into people that have had encounters, to try to document, the existence of the species.
Well, if you come out here, you see just density of forest, lots of water source running through the mountains here, higher elevation, a lot of things that, a nice elk population out here. So there's definitely a lot of food source, plenty of turkey, grouse, all kinds of food sources if you were a large animal that you'd want to feast on. To say nothing of the fact of the bear activity out here. This is a wide open area with a wide range for the bears, black bears. So, I mean, if the black bears can make it out here, I'm pretty sure Sasquatch could make it out here.
This is probably the largest concentration of bears in this area. with these woods, we have a strong, healthy bear population. We see a lot of the female bears with upwards to 5 cubs, which is something you don't commonly see in other areas. I actually live out in the Poconos, and we come out here all the time, but in the Poconos, we have a large density of population that are just specific to a few areas around the resorts. Up here, we have bears literally throughout the entire region up here. And again, it's a healthier population because they're eating more of the wild animals, the wild fruits, the wild foods, as opposed to the bears in the Poconos, which are eating trash or eating anything that may be on the side of the road. There's a lot of elk in the area. This is the largest herd of elk in the East Coast in Pennsylvania. They were previously just to the south of us in Benezet, but the herd has increased. So we're seeing elk right here in these woods as well. So I'm part of the federations around here in terms of protecting the elk and making sure that their habitat remains.
Well, elk have been here. Their population has surged in the right direction. There is a hunting season for elk, but it's very well maintained. It's wonderful to see them coming out and the amounts that we're hearing. Just a couple weeks ago, Matt and I were out here driving, and we were going alongside the road. I just happened to catch out of my peripheral something large and fur covered standing alongside the road. And I said, "What the hell is that, Matt?" And we stopped, and just 3 feet off the left of the vehicle, off the driver's side, there were 7 elk just standing there, just minding their business, feasting away, eating the grass, laying out in the sun. And then, maybe 35 minutes prior to that, we saw several herd that were just out in the fields as we're driving the road. So it's nice to see the population surging after, they did hit a low point. Huge animals, much bigger than deer. They are tasty, I'll say that. I mean, the elk's good, and that's it's probably why their population was on the decline. But it's nice to see an active management. Pennsylvania does a pretty good job in that respect with its wildlife.
They would be the largest known animal in this area. A bull elk could be up to 1,000 pounds. And most of the cow elk are probably anywhere between 400 and 600 pounds. And there's been plenty of times that we've been in the woods and we stumbled upon, either a bull elk or a cow elk, and they can hide pretty well. They can blend very well with their fur. They're also they're not as leery of humans, but they're not going to come right out and show themselves. They're a creature on their own, with their own spirit, with their own will, and they'll find places where they can bed down. And again, we could be hiking through the woods, and we may not even know that we stumbled upon a place where they could be resting.
So the report's down to the 1970s, and fast forward to one last year that Matt had actually talked to the witness not far from where we're at, and he was out here and heard some wood knocks and some vocalizations that he didn't say were kind of like the Sierra sounds. We intimate they were more like the Sierra sounds just based upon how he described them as kind of gibberish. But it was enough to frighten the guy. He went up and down the roads to see if there were anybody else out here. He was the only one out here camping. And he spent the night in his car and then the next day took off. So that was a pretty interesting sighting. And again, he's a guy that's been coming out here for years. So it was just happened that he, decided to share that story. The conundrum we find ourselves is, if there is something out here, we definitely need more sighting reports to help us kind of narrow down to where we need to deploy and research. And as I alluded to a little earlier, this is a very conservative part of the state. And I don't mean that politically. I mean, it is, but I also talk about a lot of hunters and professional people that come out here for retreat or come out here for relaxation. And then if they do experience something, probably aren't apt to report it to anybody because they don't want someone to think differently of them, or they may not even believe what they've experienced themselves. And in Potter County, which we're really close to, in 2016, I don't want to get too deep into the guy's background, but a very credible witness who worked for the Fish and Game Department had approached the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society, a group upon which I belonged at the time, that he had an encounter when he was out hunting. He was up in his tree stand, and he locked his eyes on this thing that came out into the opening of the forest as he had his sights on the deer, and he couldn't explain what it was. It scared the crap out of him. But when you have a guy that works for a department that should know the animals that are in the forests of Pennsylvania, and he can't describe what it was with anything known, that's interesting to me. Like, he can tell us what what it looked like to him, but to say he can rule out 100% it wasn't any known animal, that's really telling. He got out of the tree stand, left. It inevitably reported at dusk to PA Bigfoot Society. When we went out to investigate it, it took every ounce of my convincing to get this guy to take us to the area where he had his encounter, because he didn't want to go. But we did manage to get him to come out with us. He stayed out with us the entire night. He had a very good time, and I think made him more comfortable with the fact that this is what he may have experienced, because we weren't there, right? Everything we have is, hypothetical. But it was probably one of my favorite sighting reports that we've investigated up in this area. And again, because of how close it is to where we're at, just lends more credibility and more credence that we need to be spending more time in this place.
So some of the things that I'd like to do, especially if we have a large number of people, is to split up into certain groups, so that we have 2 people in one spot, 2 people in another spot, have them spaced out fairly well, so that if there is activity or we're able to hear something, maybe from one team, that we'll be able to reallocate our sources to go to the next team, go to assist them. In an area like this, again, it's so vast. And the other issue that we have to look at too is the terrain. The terrain's pretty unforgivable. Right behind me is a drop off that goes down almost straight down, about 40 or 50 feet. So you don't want to be walking through that in the middle of the night. You want to keep yourself safe. So we have been looking over the maps. We've been going out during the day, learning the terrain around here, learning what could be of danger to us. But again, we're in an area where we do have to go off trail. There may not be a lot of trails in those particular areas where we really want to research, but we're going to try and spread ourselves out. And again, if any of our teams have activity, that we're able to bring the other people in and maybe spread out along that particular area. So what we have here, we have a gas line. There's actually a company that's over at least about 1.5 miles to our west here, but we do have at least 2 big valleys that this goes through. It's almost like a natural funnel for noise. So if we do any calls, it's going to funnel into the valleys. And we'll see if we can elicit a response, from doing a vocalization, see if we get a return vocalization. So All right, I'm gonna do a howl in 3 then. 1. Oh! And they can be anywhere. Absolutely anywhere. But it also gives a little bit of time. You're going to have reaction to it. So if the sound travels at a certain rate, by the time it gets down to a valley, then you're going to have a reaction, to it, which may come a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes later.
You can see through the trees so well here.
Really?
Just gets like toothpicks. If you had some kind of a thermal drone right now,
Yeah.
this would be a perfect time to comb through and just see if there's anything.
Yeah. The other thing too is up on this side that goes into the Hammersley Fork area.
Yeah.
So anything up through there, going out to the east, there's nothing but woods up there. At least down here you have the gas factory down there, or the gas plant, but out that way there's nothing. Before Chewy started doing that, I thought I heard something. It could have been an owl up this way, but
I was just letting him sniff and just letting him go, and
He's just too pushed around right now.
yeah.
It's a lot more active than it normally is up here.
Yeah.
But not for... I mean, it's not unusually more quiet than it normally is.
Yeah.
It's just, there's nothing. Coyotes or
Yeah.
nothing getting kicked up. Well, shall we?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
I think in this particular area and in the Allegheny National Forest, I think that we see, there's reports throughout the year. So I do think that, again, because of the vast wilderness out here, and also in the Allegheny National Forest, that they may, if there's a species out there like this, they may not have that need to travel or to move because of human incursion. Where I live in the northeast Pennsylvania, we see more of a seasonal set of sightings and encounters. Generally during the fall and the wintertime, we see more, we have more reports come in. During the spring and the winter, we may not have those reports. And we think what happens is, if the species does exist, that they do move back and forth, usually along the Appalachian Trail or through other areas in the Poconos. And again, with those areas, you do have population that are in those areas that may be transient. You have skiers that come in the wintertime. You have vacationers that come in the summertime. So I think that may lead to some of the species going to a different area at that point. Around here, again, you only have really two big parts of the year that people are going to be in these woods, and other than that, these woods are empty. So the people that we run into, again, are typically the outdoors people. There's a large number of seasonal camps throughout this area, so we have basically your hunting camps that might be filled up, particularly this weekend because it's opening weekend for trout season, or during the deer season. Generally, after that, you really don't see a lot of people. This is an area where people are going up specifically for the wildlife. You have to have a person to witness for you to have a sighting. And again, today was a busy day up here. I maybe saw about 10 cars that drove by. There's been other days that we've gone the entire weekend and maybe only saw one car. Well, I've had my own encounter, if you'd like to hear about that.
Sure, yeah, sure.
So I was in the Allegheny National Forest in, I believe it was October 2021, and I had researched an area that had some sightings, recent sightings, and I just happened to come across a dispersed camping site that was unattended. So I parked there, decided to use that as basically a trailhead to go up and check the area out. I went up there and I found a print. So I was pretty excited about that, and the only thing though is I didn't have any plaster repairs with me at that time. So, and this was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and there's no stores around here. It's not like we could go to Lowe's 15 minutes away. So I had to wait till the next morning to get to the hardware store. I ended up going to the hardware store the next day. I went back up to the spot, and one thing I noticed is that from the drive-in to where it was about a 5-mile drive-in. There was no other cars, no other people that were out there. And I went up, I set the plaster, came back down to my truck, and there's no cell service up there either. So I was just sitting there looking over maps, kind of, looking at different areas I could go investigate. And something caught my eye out of the corner. I saw a tree that was shaking. And this is in October, so a lot of the leaves were still on the trees, but all they needed was just that little bit of push to get off. And I saw the leaves just coming down, almost like one of those cash money machines from the 80s and 90s, where you'd go into the booth and the cash would fly around. So I'm sitting there, and at first I was initially shocked. I'm sitting there saying, "What the heck is doing that?" And I didn't see anything near it. I didn't see a squirrel. I didn't see a deer. I didn't see any other animals that were near this tree. So I had no idea what was going on. But it came into the back of my mind, okay, maybe something strange is going on. Maybe it is, something that I haven't seen before. And so at that point, I kind of collected my senses and, started, saying, hey, I'm only here to investigate. I'm not here to hurt you. Needless to say, I went right up and got the plaster cast before it was probably set completely. But I came back down, and I drove over to the area where the tree was. So before I go, It was one of these birch trees here that were being shaken, and I saw the leaves come down. One thing I didn't see from where I was to when I came up here is that there is a ditch here that runs down along through here. I checked the ditch. I didn't see any sort of prints or anything. It was just really weird how I was sitting there and all of a sudden, you know, one of these trees started shaking. I can't tell which one for sure, but it was actually shaking pretty good. I actually saw the leaves come down, and it was just that one tree. So I don't know if something had come through here when I wasn't around, but obviously it could have been a porcupine for all I know. There's a lot of them up here in the A&F, and just really neat. I did notice too that there's a lot of these deadfalls, and if you're into bear and bear habitat, they like to den up in those big deadfalls like this. Let me see if I can zoom in. Yeah, it's a perfect place for a bear to go for wintertime. Now, again, I'm in a very, very remote area. It's not, they classify it a little differently from where my cabin is. The one thing is that there's, even though it's very remote, there's no houses, no cabins or anything. There are gravel roads that come through here. So it's not really a far place from these gravel roads, but I've been down here for over an hour and no cars came by. So it's you know, on a Sunday in the fall, you should see, if it was anywhere just a hair east of us, going into north central PA or northeast PA, there would be cars left and right. So anyways, I have a 4-hour trip heading home, and when I get home, hopefully I'll be able to allow that cast to cure a little bit. As I looked at the tree, what I noticed was that there was about a 7 or 8 foot ditch that was adjacent to that tree. And what I also noticed too was that it was all rock bottom. So there was nowhere you could see tracks. But I kept thinking to myself, if something was in that ditch shaking that tree, nobody would be able to see that. And although it wasn't a true sighting, it was definitely an encounter that I still have a lot of questions about. So that's probably my favorite, because that was a personal thing that happened with me. But as for other sightings and encounters up here, just a few years ago, we had a friend of Sean's who was in a town just not that far from here, and he thought that he saw a bear on the side of the road until the bear stood up on its hind legs and had legs, you know, that were probably, you know, 4 or 5 feet tall, and just without any sort of hesitation, this just walked up the embankment. And he said initially when he first saw it, he thought it was a bear, but when he saw this thing get up, he said this was not a bear. This was something that was on 2 legs, bipedal, and had long legs and walked right into the tree line. So again, I do think that there's something in these woods that we just haven't discovered yet. All in this, there's woodlands and mountains between here and where my encounter was. There's highways in between, there's roadways in between, but given that particular range, it's within the range of what a black bear would have. So it's very well possible that whatever made that print there, it could make their way into this area. It's basically one continuous forest between, because literally across the street is Elk State Forest, and Elk State Forest will eventually turn into the Allegheny National Forest. I know the Hammersley Fork Wild area, which is behind us, which is the largest roadless area in Pennsylvania, is 29,000 acres. So with that much amount of land without having any roads going through it, again, you have plenty of places for a creature that is 6 to 8 feet tall and anywhere from 300 to 700 pounds could hide easily.
One of the first cases I investigated back in Lycoming County, there was a lady that was out, just doing her daily bike ride, and there was a little ridge alongside the road, and she had saw a shadowy figure cross into it, and as she was going on her bicycle by, she felt this thing was paralleling her and following her back to her house, which was really, again, one of the first investigations I've ever done on my own with Bigfoot. But the thing that was even more interesting is something had taken the garbage near her home and had taken the bags out of the can and opened the bags and gone through the bags. Didn't tear them open, didn't knock the cans over, but very neatly took the bag out of the can and went through the garbage like it was scavenging in a very kind of careful way, as to maybe not be noticed or not make a lot of noise. That was really cool, mainly because it was the first, and the witness to me was very credible. Just a lot of fondness to that case. Yeah. The biggest trend I see again is the more openness to the topic. More people willing to take it seriously that may not have been interested in Bigfoot beforehand. That will seriously consider and sit down and have a conversation. There used to be a time where I would sit down with people, "Oh, you're the Bigfoot guy," and laugh and make jokes. But then after they sit down and talk to me, they don't laugh anymore, because I take them to that. There are very credible people that have had sightings with something they can't explain, and you making fun of them isn't doing justice to anything that they've experienced. As we learn more about the human psyche, we learn more about trauma, how trauma actually has an effect on Bigfoot witnesses, and how, treating them more like people as opposed to a data point is really important. Like having to show empathy and compassion for somebody that went through something very traumatic. You can't be treated the same way as some sort of analytical piece of data. Like, you have to be, a compassionate person when talking to these folks sometimes, and breaking down some of that, I'm losing a word here, but breaking down some of that coldness, and be warm and open to having some serious discussion about what they experience and how they feel. Another trend, I guess, is there is a slide to the more fantastical elements of this, things like mind speak and telepathy, and that are starting to become more okay to talk about throughout the field from different researchers. Not something I believe, doesn't mean it's not happening. It's just not in my wheelhouse, and it's not something I think we can prove easily, like we can through a flesh and blood scenario. So if we can get a Sasquatch and we can get it to talk to us telepathically, I guess that'd be one thing. But I think first we have to settle to the fact that let's find one, and let's try to prove it exists in a flesh and blood perspective before we go off and branch to the other things. So there's that slide to, yes, we are more open and willing to talk about it as a society, which is great, and great as a scientific community. But then there's also that kind of sideward slide where we're taking it into areas that are a little bit more fantastic. So those are the trends I guess I've noticed. But the one thing I think I will say that is a little surprising to me is for the last couple years in itself, we've gotten less sighting reports. So I don't know what that means. Either folks are looking for a different place to report them, social media has exploded, so they're reporting it through Facebook groups now as opposed to traditional websites, but the way we're getting the information is a lot different.
So as for the origins, I really couldn't say. I mean, I'm one of these people. I was asked recently, do you think that this is part of the human line, or is it part of the ape line? And I really can't answer that question. It could be a missing link, but again, it's going to be until we're able to get some additional evidence through DNA, or if we are able to get a body, that we're able to make that determination on what it is. What I can tell you is, I think it's a biological entity. I don't think that there's anything mystical about it, because going back to the conversation we had about the elk, here's a 600-pound creature that could basically just meld into the landscape and remain unnoticed. So if you have another creature that's in that 600, 700-pound range, that has the intelligence, maybe, of what a great ape would have, they're going to know what to do to remain hidden. And they're going to know it's probably not in their best interest to go ahead and make contact with human beings.
You can believe with what you want to believe, and that's fine. But when you're trying to take this and you're trying to grow market share, whatever you want to call it, and get people to take you seriously, like, you have to show that professional face, and you have to get folks to get comfortable enough, and they may not do that if you're scaring them. Like you said, those alternate beliefs may be offsetting to people that live a very practical lifestyle.
I know this area is, it's not the most hospitable to people. This is all ridge and valley mountains. We're sitting here, we're not in the highest points of Pennsylvania, but we're kind of small compared to the other mountains, but most of these ridge tops are over 2,000 feet. And again, it's a straight drop down. We do have a large population of rattlesnakes in this area. We also have, a lot of dangers in this area as well. Besides the rattlesnakes, again, with the terrain itself, is really unforgiving. So, human intrusion is something in this area that creatures may not necessarily see until hunting season. So, the fact that something could hide in here is really a big factor in the reason why we choose to come out here to investigate.
Oh, well, this is still kind of a new area for us, not new geologically, but new to us, and I really hope it's fruitful, because I think of a lot of places in PA, this part checks the boxes. With the historical sightings, there's just a lot to it. I hope we're spending the proper amount of time we need at a place like this to get some results. I hope it shows something to us.
So we arrived here last night. A lot of elk coming in. Really beautiful area. We're in north central Pennsylvania right now. Peaceful on their own, but I can hear a ruffed grouse.
There's a ruffed grouse all night long.
Yeah, it's been going off. But here you go, here's the view. Beautiful, beautiful view here. Got a little path right here, right out of camp. And it just kind of drops off down there. I wouldn't want to fall down there.
Well, we all drank it, so we're going down together.
You always watch those survival guys go for the moss and squeeze it out because it's a natural filter.
What you doing there, guy?
How far up did you go? Look at how short it looks up there, though. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think the bends are like this.
I think Mike just wants to jump. Don't push it, but if you feel confident.
I mean, as long as you get your foot into the side of the dirt, that's what I'm here. And it doesn't, you know, it doesn't look like a foot block. Yeah, you're either going to make the Hall of Fame or the Hall of Shame right now. Superman music.
All right, that was actually clean. Nice.
Bravo!
For about 5 bustles, but it was worth it.
You didn't even get wet.
And then two just. What is going on right now? It's very elaborate. Turn.
It's okay.
This is what we call the 78-point turn.
Why did I record this?
It wasn't like this.
This is gold.
Are they probably? They're probably watching this like.
I can't take it. I can't take it. I gotta concentrate. There we go.
The paint's gonna wear out.
There we go.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Confident.
Brian's gonna die. Whoa! Don't go too far down the hill. You gotta put that parking brake on.
Oh, I'm so mad we didn't record that.
Confident.
Please tell me you got
confident,
all
precise.
of it. Oh my god, we got 5 minutes of 50 points. Oh my god.
Something for real.
Oh Lord. That was incredible.
Yeah, Luca can't get enough. He's going back in. I'll meet you at this top. Here you go, brother. All right. Let me take these off. Here's your light. God. No. I just shot the whole cave and I wasn't recording, so take 2. That's the opening that I came through. Just a secondary opening where Mike is. Alright, yeah. That's a good shot. You see the creek continues on from underground there. And then it even kind of extends down that way. I'm not sure how that's turning out the camera there. Alright.
What do we got here? You want to film him explaining where we're at real quick? Sure.
You don't have to do the light, just do the
Yeah.
night vision.
Yeah, that works.
Hey, Chewy. You enjoying your view, buddy?